Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. And today, I wanted to touch on what has just been setting the CoD community ablaze. There is an outpour of support and an outcry of hoping that the CoD developers will listen to what has just been a large amount of upvotes. So you can see here that this is now currently the #1 most upvoted suggestion. It was submitted originally by Darkhill. He's an alliance leader for one of the top alliances in the game. This has 657 upvotes because you have to minus one for each. And then you'd minus, so really it's 648, right, if you will, for the amount that it has. And then there's another one here that's just below that Czar submitted. We'll get to this in a moment. This has 213, right? Because you have to minus one from each there. Because, again, there's already one pre-populated on the suggestions. So there's three main points we're going to touch on. I want to first start off and say I am very much in favor of them reverting these changes, but I want to give an explanation and some important context on why. So the three things we're going to talk about today is the removal of the free healing and the impact that that has. There's the second one, which is the increase of your Legion capacity. I think that went from 300k to now 360k for Season 2. There is the 200 member cap, hard cap limit that has now been set. Which was confirmed, I think, by CoD CS, from what some people had mentioned, from what I saw on the Discord, but it wasn't mentioned in any of the patch notes. And then, or I should say allegedly, because I didn't see it there. Same thing about the free healing bonus, and then the Legion capacity, we'll check on that. I can't remember if that was in the patch notes, if it's going from 300 to 360, or if it was mentioned elsewhere. And then number 4, which is the inability to where you cannot join alliances now up until the last Augerstone chapter. Now, let me give a brief history lesson on how this works, right, for when it goes to moving between alliances. And this shouldn't take too long. So if I have an alliance that's here in Orion, in this Zone 1, and I want to move to Duar. I, as Sky, let's just imagine there was one gate here that connects. I know there's not, but let's use our imagination. Thank you, guys. Is that I cap this gate, Sky builds into Duar. If I then teleport onto territory here in Duar, on Sky's territory, I can then join after the cooldown finishes as far as moving. But you can leave the alliance and you can join another alliance that's here in Duar. You would just have to wait for the cooldown to finish before you can move your city. The other way to do it is if Sky builds in, and let's say they go up here and they capture this giant bear, then any player in Duar can then join their alliance. Right? Those are essentially the two ways that you can join another alliance at this moment. Of course, if you have multiple alliances that are here in Zone 3, then the easy way to view that is you can join any of the alliances, right, that are there in Zone 3 if you're in there and other people are in there as well, right? So it just kind of works the same way. Now, let's get back to the issue at hand. So number 1 here, let's touch on this thing of free healing, right? So this reduction of that. And this is pretty detailed out here by Darko, where it's the hospital capacity from 57k previous season to now it being 37k, right? So you're losing 20k of free healing there. And then also removing 100k base out of policy. So you're looking at a loss of 120k from free healing. And then even more healing is missed when you include the 45% of the free percentage healing bonus that's missing as well. And I believe that should be based on the total number of troops that you have in as that scales. I think that's where they're getting that number from. But if not, please just let me know in the comments down below. Point is that a large chunk of free healing has been removed and or reduced. At the same time, the Legion capacity, and I'm going to kind of connect these 2 points, the Legion capacity has been increased. So you have to think about this. Free healing has been reduced. Legion capacity has increased. What do you think you're doing here? You're moving the goalpost and then you're lowering the goalpost. But what are you doing is you're creating a wider gap between the free-to-play, 100%, and then still, as well, even maybe lightly more, but about, I don't know if I want to say about the same, but still impacted, let's say that, for your light and your mid-spend. This is how you create more detrimental gaps in the game. I personally did not see anything wrong with the way that it was prior to these Season 2 Plus changes. Now, sure, you can make the argument maybe there could still be some fine-tuning and some adjustments here and there, right? Some people have said, hey, we'd like to have a little bit more free healing, or we'd like to have some cost changes to RSS healing, right? Legion capacity maybe could have been reduced, or at least at the very least stayed where it is, right? There's still some, there's positions here and there, but the point is that I don't believe anything needed to be changed. But more importantly than that, why was there no explanation that was provided to us on the changes that were made? Why was there no justification or no, hey, here's the data, or hey, here's the feedback we got from people? Transparency is very humbling. It is something that allows for you to engage with your community in a positive and constructive way. And that is something we need more of. I do not want Call of Dragons. I hope and I pray it doesn't turn into Infinity Kingdom. Because those are some of the things that Infinity Kingdom started doing that ended up not only causing me to eventually leave, but a number of other people to leave as well. Again, there's still people that play the game. I'm not saying no one plays it. But for a number of people, those were some of the biggest challenges, just hurtful impacts that we didn't like, along with other things that we may touch on later. So to me, that's my view there. I would, of course, love to know what you think about this. Let me know in the comments down below, and please share your thoughts. Next, we're going to touch on, and I guess really the last thing let me give you one last thing here for number one, which is that by increasing the Legion capacity, I mean, you have to, let me spit some facts here. You have to really think about this. How many free-to-play players are able to have a max 300 and now 360K T4 March? Like just one, right? And then how long does it take them to get there? And then if you want to exacerbate this even more, to really hammer the point home, how many free-to-play players are able to field 1.8 million troops in 5 legions, which is now, if you multiply 360 by 5, how many of them are able to do that with T4? I would guess, I would estimate that it's probably not a lot. I would be curious if I could find one T4 player that, I mean, I probably shouldn't say one. Again, I'm not trying to make it seem like no one has that, right? Because again, I don't know. But I find that very difficult. You know, I would find it difficult to confidently say that a healthy number of pure free-to-play players are able or will be able to field 1.8 million T4 troops by the time Season 2 Plus comes around. And I'd be curious, if you're free-to-play, if you are pure free-to-play, let us know in the comments down below. If you are in Season 2 Plus, or if you're in Season 2, will you be able to field 1.8 million T4 troops? And if so, are you just getting there? Are you almost there? Do you have more than that? How does this change make it feel for you? Because my view is like, look, even if you can get there, even if you get to 1.8 million troops, you're only going to be able to have one cycle of your 5 legions out there fighting at full troop capacity or full legion capacity. And then, again, you're going to fight, right? I mean, it's like you're doing all this work for 5 minutes of playing time, specifically at max legion capacity for your 5 marches. I mean, does that not rub anyone else just the wrong way? Right? Now, I can understand if you're spending, yes, I get it. You have the ability to buy more troops. I don't see anything wrong with that. But the free-to-play really, makes up, 95%? 95% of the game? Somewhere around there, give or take? And, this is my thing. And again, I'm going to say this before we get to number 3. One way to look at this, and this obviously isn't a good way to look at it, I'll say that up front, but one way to look at this is that you can make an argument that the way that maybe some potential, and I'm not saying this is for COD or for anyone else, I'm just saying in general, that one way to look at the game from a developer standpoint, if you're trying to make money, is, well, let's just create as many kingdoms as we can, and then let's just herd all the needles in the haystacks. The needles in the haystacks being people that spend money. Because what can on average and somewhat to an extent naturally occur? Well, power is gravitated towards power. Spending is gravitating towards spending. And so there's all kind of factors in. These are all multiple factors that go into this kind of pyramid structure of this pyramid funneling structure of what creates mega alliances, right? Is you just want to herd the strongest players. You want to herd the people that are spending the most. And then this is one of the biggest causes of what negatively impacts player retention in new kingdoms, is because of the funneling effect. And then depending on how that alliance exudes all of that power on the map. And more often than not, whether it's intentionally or it's passively or unintentionally, it is a huge factor for what demotivates a lot of players to continue playing, because they just don't have an opportunity to experience the game. Or even have the, and I should be more specific here, have the opportunity to experience certain things, even if it's at least one time. And so, again, that is, when you think about it like that, with the migration feature, what's to stop spenders from eventually just migrating and going to other spender alliances as they get paired with other kingdoms and other KVKs? And then, what's to stop the game just really, at the end of the day, hard catering to specifically spender alliances? Because when you focus on an alliance-based approach for your game, that is, I would say, probably the highest percentage path that your game is going to go down. And I wonder if the developers know this, if they've realized this, if it's something they're aware of. I wonder if other people are aware that this is something that can and could happen. And maybe some may even make an argument, maybe a little bit of it is happening already. Anyways, let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is the 200 member cap, hard cap. Once again, the thing about this, and we'll take a look real quick, actually, before we get there, let's just look at the patch notes, right? Because, again, I want to be, as clear and as transparent as we can be, right? So if we look at the patch notes from the notes that we have, let's look, and let's type in resurgence. Oh, I'm sorry, this is going to be to the next one, I think, that I had already looked up. But let's type in, healing. Let's type in heal. So Season 2 policy adjusted resource production, buff policies have been removed, and policies that reduce the cost of healing have been added. So I don't see anything here about free healing adjustments. Again, we're only looking at patch notes, right? If it was mentioned somewhere else, I probably just could be forgetting. But we'll look here. Let's look at hospital, right? Was there something mentioned about hospital? And bear in mind, right, these were released 2 weeks ago, just to be very clear, right? On November 15th, I believe. So no mention about hospital. Okay, well, let's type in the word free. Okay, nothing. Let's type in the word elixir. Okay, nothing about elixir. Let's type in the word RSS or resource. Okay, so there's some mentions, right? There's resource production, there's resource donations, there's donation cooldown there, there's donations, there's building resource collection changes. You can see the rest are right there. Okay, but nothing still about heal, right? That we've been able to find. Okay, well, how about policies? So nothing on okay, how about policies? Here we go. So policy system has been redesigned. I don't see anything mentioned there. Adjusted cost of policies. And reduced time requirements for enacting policies. Okay, still nothing mentioned about the healing portions. And then 4, 5, and 6, right around right there. So nothing, and specifically the latest patch notes. Okay, well, how about Legion capacity? Okay, so I don't see anything there about capacity. How about Legion? Okay, let's get Legion normal attack, attacking syringing, Legion no longer accidentally goes, carry the previous action, stunned airborne. I don't see anything there. So let's go here, and then we get to 6. How about 7? Right? New cross region events. I don't see anything here about capacity or March capacity. Let's type in March, right, just to see. Legion's launch over, so nothing. I don't see anything here in the patch notes that specifically say that. Again, not saying that this is the only place. There are other places. There's the dev feedback columns. It could have been an in-game system mail. I'm just saying that these are big changes. These aren't small changes. And usually it would be, I hope, incumbent upon the developers and the people that are making those changes to appropriately disseminate that information in a easy to find and public way. However, let's move on. So now let's go back to what we were covering there on point 3, which is the 200 member cap. So with this, I think for me it's the same thing, right? Where's the data? Where's the feedback that is showing that we need to have a 200 member cap? Some of the things that this affects is, I think another question is, what is this meant? What's the change meant to achieve? Right? What is the change meant to improve? What is to stop? And these are now questions, right? We're kind of poking holes in it, right? Like you would a Shark Tank pitch. What's to now stop alliances in Season 2 from front-loading even heavier? What's to stop alliances from trying to increase their member capacity to as high as they possibly can so they can come in over the cap? Will the developers make another hotfix or another change to address that, where now they won't be able to do that in Season 2 prior to coming into Season 2 Plus? Or will they not? And then you can have alliances that are at, I think someone told me there was an alliance at 211 or 215 or 214 over 200. What's to stop alliances from doing that? And then you're going to get another set of uproar and another set of feedback. I think the challenge is that this change really more so is starting to go in this direction of creating more mega alliances. I think when you have an alliance-based system within Kingdom Builders, you are inherently creating a situation where the highest percentage chance is going to be for more mega alliances to be created. And you're not getting any level of balance within a kingdom. You're basically kind of almost saying, well, screw the majority of the player base, right, that isn't able to be strong enough or to power up enough or to spend enough, right? Because then you're just going to alienate them in a lot more ways than you may think. And that just can, I would argue, be very detrimental to a player base. And again, there's a lot more negative impacts than I think people realize when you're forming mega alliances or just alliances that basically are so much stronger than the number 2, number 3, and kind of so on alliances. And these are things that are very much going in that direction. That's why it scares me a bit. Then let's get to number 4. So first and foremost, I just don't agree with the 200 member cap, right? Because again, there wasn't any explanation. I didn't see any justification. I didn't see any data or any feedback from people that it's, where are we seeing 1,000 people asking for a 200 member cap? I'd love to know. I really would. So again, if there's some like hidden place I've just never seen, or there's a suggestion that has 500 upvotes that I'm not privy to, let me know. Otherwise, I'd love to know what you guys think here. And then the last point is going to be the cannot join other alliances, right? Which is here. And the thing I'm going to say here is that these are some of the areas this impacts. Being able to split rewards with players from other alliances within your kingdom or other alliances within your union, right? Why if you're working with 2 or more alliances, right? That's kind of something that the game hasn't said don't do, right? It's just been more alliance focused, right? So you're teaming up with other alliances. Why should the game not be able to reward that, where you want to take players? Like let's say you have 2 alliances at 200 players, right? So you have 400 players total in that union. Why shouldn't you be able to move the top 200 most biggest contributors? I don't see a problem with that. That's one way of doing it. There's other ways to do it as well. But now that you're eliminating that option, part of me almost feels like this can cause more dissent, right? What's to stop now an alliance from saying, well, now because we can't move alliances, we want to be the ones to cap Dragon? What's to stop, and again, I hate to say this, but what's to stop more potential betrayals from happening with the way that this change is now in effect? I think that's a valid question to ask, right? Why would an alliance, because now you can't move, why wouldn't they now want to go for it and have the rewards to themselves if you can't share with other alliances and other players? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. How about them apples? And then, okay, the next one, right? How about being able to move to other alliances in other regions to assist on different battlefronts, right? What if, as an example, and we'll show this to you in game, what if, as an example, I'm in Zone 3, where we know a lot of fighting is going to happen here in S2 Plus, or could potentially happen, or even in Zone 4. But what's to stop, an alliance that is in the middle here, and then you have 2 alliances on both sides? What's to stop them from switching sides, or from having 2 alliances on the left, and then one coming in over here from Duar, and this one builds this way, and then you have this one that builds short? But there's 2 different battlefronts, or maybe more. What's to stop? And this is just a very simple, basic example, but now you can't even assist your alliances from your home kingdom, which sucks, or you can't assist alliances that you've unioned with and allied with for that season. I think that is very detrimental. I just, when I look at it like that, I don't think that's a good change. How about the players that are in a bad situation? This is something I don't think they thought of, right? At least it appears to me that way. What about the players that are in a bad situation? What about the players who get kicked because alliances are either wanting to bring in more activity, stronger players, or people that are just spending more. What happens to players who are accidentally removed, right? Because maybe there just wasn't communication, or maybe the Alliance League just didn't know, or the management team didn't know that those players were still active. Maybe they were away for a little bit, but they forgot. Now not only can they not join the same alliance, but being able to move alliances, right? So what? They're just going to be allianceless? Because remember, you can't join other alliances now, based on what CoD CS says. So what? You can't leave an alliance and join another one? So you just have to hang out allianceless? Is that why they made that change, to give allianceless players rewards? What's it called? Hindered or something like that? That they added into the Augerstone. There's a specific chapter on this now in S2+. So what? You have to be solo for the remainder of the season if you're outside of your alliance? Or is it just that you can't join an alliance from another region, but you could still join alliances in your region? I think that's probably what it is. But the point is what happens if you're in a situation where you're not able to get back into any of the alliances within your region? Or let's say not get back into any of the active alliances within your region. I mean, that would suck. And that would probably make some people quit the game, or just have a very bad taste in their mouth. How about in general, just the change not considering the worst case scenarios, i.e. like one I just mentioned, or two I just mentioned. I'm sure there could be other reasons that could fall into a worst case scenario that would affect players because of this change. And I think those are things that sometimes you can only learn or get an understanding for if, one, you play the game to an extent where you will know these things, that these things can happen. And then you think about how the change can affect that because you have a good understanding of that. And I'm not sitting here saying that the developers don't play the game. However, I think there is a little bit of a disconnect between changes that are being made from a developer standpoint versus players that have very much fully immersed themselves in all aspects of playing a kingdom builder. And I think there just needs to be some healthy dialogue, healthy conversations to help bridge those gaps. And sometimes asking of questions or collecting feedback. The last thing I'm going to mention is that, and this kind of goes back to we're going to go right back here to the thing. I'm trying to keep this decently short, but ends up being longer sometimes as usual, as is per my style. But I think Czar made a really good point here. He says, be more transparent about these changes. Feels like they pop up out of nowhere. I don't recall nerfing elixir healing being something mentioned in the patch notes. Recently, CoD is giving me Infinity Kingdom vibes. IK had tons of potential like CoD, but greedy and questionable decisions killed it. Wake up before you kill your game too. Respectfully, it's hard to disagree with the point, right? The overall view of what this point is being made for point number 4 by Czar. I played Infinity Kingdom, right? I was one of the OG people who started, I believe, in Kingdom 4, out of the, I think, 9 or 8 beta servers they had before 9 was released for global, if that's right, if I can remember or recall things correctly. And so IK I thought was a phenomenal game. I thought in the beginning it had so much potential. Even though there wasn't open field free movement, there was enough things they were doing differently that I was very interested in. And not only me, but there was other rock creators that came over. There was Clash of Clans creators that came over. There was a Lures Mobile creator that came over. I mean, the game was really getting a lot of great traction, I thought. Again, for those of you that don't mind not having open field movement, I just thought the ways that they created fighting interactions, it felt tangible, right? It felt like there was something there, even though there wasn't this free movement feature or mechanic that was in the game. But because of things that started happening with it, and I'll just name you 2 things that I think really kind of rubbed me, and I'm sure a few others poorly, is one of the things is they started increasing City Hall levels, or your castle level, right? We know that in Rock it's been 25, in CoD it's 25, but not in IK. In IK, I think it ended up going up, like they were increasing about 5 to 10 levels at a time, and I think it's somewhere around like 50 to 60 right now. And so you're just, constantly moving the goalpost. And it just wasn't looked upon well. It wasn't received well. And then the other thing is that, and unless they've changed this by now, but for at least when I was there, you could basically end KVKs in Zone 1. meaning that you've ruined essentially quite a lot of players' experience on being able to play out a season or at least advance to 1 to 2 other zones, whether that be zone 2 or zone 3, and play a little bit more before they potentially get. This is one of the things I've always felt that Rock, in this aspect, has done well in those early KVKs, where the way that they do their zone openings, the intervals for those, is they allow for you to go into zone 2, right, even if you have to fight it out, and then, right, you go into a zone 3, and then a final zone 4, if it's zone 3 or zone 4. But the idea is that you're allowing for players to advance into further and deeper zones, even if later on in the season you end up opening those gates. So that way, as an example, you could go from zone 4 to your opponent's zone 3, then from your opponent's zone 3 to the zone 2, and then you're basically caging them in zone 1, and maybe that happens in the very last week, right, or week and a half of a season. But you're not ruining and limiting what a player can do throughout the entire season, right? Where you're saying, hey, we're just gonna not allow for you to do anything else, and you're only going to be able to play in the season for a week, right? If your kingdom isn't strong enough to make it out, and so you basically, what you were seeing is that in KVKs, it was all becoming one color throughout all the zone 1s, because you just had kingdoms, whether it was 1 or 2, that were just going around and taking control of everything. And obviously it's not that bad, right? Or it's not to that extent, I should say, in CoD, but I just hope that it doesn't get to that point, because I think Czar has a good point here, is that I am starting to get some of those IK vibes. Not a lot, but there's a little itch right behind the ear in one spot right now. And I think some of the things that they can do, right, one of the things that I really loved about IK is they actually had a community developer meeting where myself, a couple other creators, and then some active contributing content, contributing members, just players, non-creators, ended up being invited to this private dev feedback round where it lasted, I think, about 2 hours. I have it recorded on my YouTube from back when I was playing IK, but we were able to go in, have a conversation with the devs where they asked us for feedback on a number of points. Everyone got an opportunity to give their feedback. Then there was an open Q&A, or there was a Q&A that was done where we could then ask questions. And then at the very end, there was they left like the last 10 or 15 minutes open just to general feedback, right? Just anything we wanted to say that they could document. And I always thought that was a great approach to the game, because I just felt like it was an opportunity to establish a level of rapport and mutual dialogue between the developers and the community. And my hope usually from those things is that it allows for us as players to understand a little bit more of an insight on where the developers are coming from, and then equally stances and perspectives on where the community is coming from, so we can try and bridge that gap. And again, I'm not saying CoD has to do that. I'm just giving an example of one thing that was done. With that in mind, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on anything that I touched on in the comments down below. Yeah, there's a lot here. The very last thing I will have as well is I'm going to have a link to this suggestion by Dark, and I'm going to have that in the description and the pinned comments. So those of you that want to go and upvote this suggestion, I'll have a link to it there, and I'll try and add that in on the timestamps as well. With that in mind, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. That's going to be it for me. As always, until next time, I will catch you later.